Today we will be presenting the remaining of the expenditures budget. Mr. Chamberlain and Mr. Chow will go over approximately, 40% of the total budget. After the expenditure budget is presented, Mr. Chow will present the revenue budget and some other topics for us. The entire expenditure and revenue budgets have been posted on the website along with all the budget presentations. As I always do with all of our budget presentations, I start with rooting our work in the district mission and in the strategies of the strategic plan. Our district mission calls upon us to allow our students to become lifelong learners, dynamic thinkers, and compassionate contributing citizens. It also outlines the learning environment that we strive to achieve so that they can attain these lofty goals. They include rich, differentiated academic programs, a safe, supportive environment, allowing students to explore their individual passions, and pathways that lead to leadership and service. As I said, our strategic plan has 6 strategies. They include leadership, which asks us to provide continuous and ongoing opportunities for professional growth and learning for our staff, as well as looking for staff that bring unique experiences to the district. In our curriculum, we look at providing differentiated instruction that allows our students to be future ready. In the area of wellness, we're looking for emotional, social, and physical wellness for our students. Our next 3 strategies include communication, which calls upon us to engage the home and school communities together. Our infrastructure and resources, we're going to hear a lot about today. We're looking to provide a safe, collaborative, and flexible environment for our students and staff. And we're also looking at our partnerships where we can expand different learning opportunities. So in rooting in the mission and the strategic plan, I also wanted to provide a bit of a big picture overview of what we're talking about in the 23-24 proposed budget. This is a $59 million budget, which is a 2.79% increase over last year's budget. Our allowable tax levy limit is 2.44%, and our proposed budget of the $59 million comes in at a 2.43% tax levy change over last year's budget. I think this slide also provides a big overview of, excuse me, some of the big areas where we're looking at making changes in the budget for next year. As you know, our salaries, it doesn't look like a big increase, but this is the percent change that is negotiated in the contracts and increases in all of our salaries over the course of the year. Employee benefits is over $1 million increase. That is a huge change. We've talked about the 14% increase in health insurance contributions. The next biggest area that we look at is our utilities and fuel. We have been talking about utilities and fuel costs, I feel like, since back in before the winter season even came, when we were looking at nearly double costs in electricity, oil, and fuel. So that's a big increase for us, a 42% increase in our budget. We talked about our $90,000. That is for our bond to pay for the middle school HVAC project. And we also talked in our last budget presentation about the contractual increases that we are looking at in both technology as well as special education. The decrease in the interfund transfer is the decrease from monies that we used last year and we put in the budget for this current school year for 22-23 in order to be able to pay for the middle school HVAC project. So this is an overall summary of the budget expenditures for 23-24. So I just wanted to set the context for the rest of the speakers that are going to come up and talk about the 23-24 budget. I'd like to introduce Mr. Dan Iorio, our athletic director, who is going to present the 23-24 athletics budget for us.
Good evening, everyone, and I want to thank you for the opportunity for allowing me to present the budget. Very excited. I do want to start off with our sport offerings at the high school and middle school levels, and I start off with this for a reason, because for a school our size, it tends to be very unique. When you look at the fall, winter, and spring seasons, you'll see next to each sport offering, we have a number of different levels. And I've mentioned this before in the past, that what's unique about Pleasantville is we have the ability to offer those inclusive opportunities at each level. A lot of schools you would see of our size are not necessarily able to do that. So that is a positive for Pleasantville. And throughout the fall, the winter, and the spring, that pretty much remains consistent. And you'll see as we move forward, I'm going to talk about our participation rates during those seasons, which will help you understand this a little bit better. Overall, we offer 18 programs, and when you refer to a program, that's really a particular sport, and that is the different levels that are offered for that sport. So for example, if we're talking about a soccer program, your soccer program would entail your modified, your junior varsity, and your varsity teams. At the high school level, we offer 32 teams. Out of those 32 teams, 3 of those teams are considered merged teams, where we file just about this time of year, and the board does approve it, mergers with some of our Mount Pleasant teams. And for those sports, specifically, that's girls swimming at the varsity level, that's boys ice hockey at the varsity level, and also boys swimming at the varsity level. At the middle school level, we offer 14 different teams throughout the course of the year. Our high school total coaches are 49 right now at the current moment. Our middle school coaches are 18, and we also board approve 6 volunteer coaches as well throughout our seasons for several different sports. Also keep in mind that among those high school coaches and those middle school coaches, a lot of them coach multiple sports. So you may have a varsity coach that coaches a modified sport. So within district, that tends to happen quite often. Not sure how well you can see this, but these are the percentages that I was referring to after that first slide. And again, this is very unique about Pleasantville School District. Each season, and our participation rates have remained very consistent. And consistent to me is a positive. The trend currently, when you're looking at other districts, and a lot of what I'm seeing now, a lot of the feedback that I get with teams dropping at modified and junior varsity levels, Pleasantville remains consistent. And that's pretty much across the board. Our participation rates during the fall at the high school level was just over 50%, 52%. In the winter, 29%. That number drops. That's also because we offer a lot less sports during the winter season. And then the spring, we're close to 50%. At the middle school level, we are at 56% in the fall, 26% in the winter, and 54% in the spring. Again, I want to reiterate the fact that these numbers, although consistent, they are very, very good numbers, especially for a school of our size, which means a lot of our population is participating in some sort of a sport. This will lead us into our budget details. I have highlighted our main budget account lines here. And the first one that we're going to refer to is supplies. Our supplies line will remain consistent at $40,000. And within that line, that covers our basic supplies, balls, uniforms. We've had the ability to upgrade a lot of our uniforms over the last 2 years, and that's something that we'll continue to do. We've implemented an inventory system that we have that will help us upgrade our uniforms more regularly. Also, within the supplies line, one item I would like to refer to, and I want to thank our buildings and grounds team, is clay. Clay is a pretty expensive item, and what we were able to do with our softball field, and I'll talk more about that, we added all fresh clay over the last 2 years, something we haven't done, I think, in a pretty long time. Within that supplies line is also our trainer supplies. So our athletic trainer, any supplies that we purchase for them would come out of this line. Another area that we were able to allocate these funds to is the local live. And I know we've spoken about that on many occasions. So strategically, being able to manage this line and allocate funds appropriately, we've been able to apply some of that towards our local live system, which is our online streaming system that we've been using for our teams. The next line is equipment. Equipment also will remain consistent at $5,000. What do we purchase out of equipment? That would be like your goals and your nets. They sound like small ticket items, but they're not. One goal is pretty expensive. And last year we were able to buy a brand new volleyball net. The plan is to purchase a new field hockey goal this upcoming year. We actually did it, or attempted to do it last year, but due to COVID, things were on back order. By the time we were going to receive it, it was too late. So we'll try that again this year. The next area is repairs and reconditioning. And we talked about this once before. Repairs and reconditioning line, again, will remain consistent at $16,000. One of the things that we've implemented under this line is the repair and maintenance of our fitness center. We have contracted with a company called B&B Fitness, and what they do is they come multiple times a year to service our equipment. And actually, if you see them in action, it's pretty impressive what they do. They take apart every treadmill, every elliptical, and they really spend an entire day in full detail taking care of our equipment. And they'll replace any damaged parts, any cables, anything that we need to do. And this becomes a safety concern of ours too. So that's why we make sure that we are consistently doing this. Also under that line, any equipment that has to get sent out, and for certain sports, specifically in football and upcoming in lacrosse, because we're going to be at that time on an annual basis, you have to get your equipment recertified. Mm-hmm. That falls under safety. Mm-hmm. Our other contractual line at $46,000. Within this account line, this pretty much covers all of our merged teams. So the way it works with a merged team is whatever the total costs are, you are dividing it by the number of athletes that you have within that program. So for example, for swimming, we rent facilities. So if we're going to Westchester Community College, or if we're using Purchase, we have to pay for that. There are coaches. And in the end, all said and done, we divide it among all the schools and how many athletes you have within your district. The numbers have increased for us in our merged sports. We had
Yeah, swimming was a lot.
swimming is a lot. Girls swimming, we were at like 14 participants. That was our biggest number,
That's great.
I think, definitely in a long time.
Yeah.
Hockey, we're consistently the last couple years around, I want to say 7 to 9.
Oh, that's a lot.
And
Wasn't it
boys
like
swimming,
1
we
or
were
2
at
then?
4 this season, which was a little bit lower, but that
That's great.
can change. Professional services, the next line, that's strictly associated with our athletic trainer. We have a contract with our local physical therapy company who provides an athletic trainer. That's Pro Clinics. We have a great partnership with them. They've been great. They provide us with great trainers, and that is the cost for that service. The next line to focus on is transportation, and you'll see an increase here of $8,000. Not just because of the fuel costs that have gone up, but also, and I say this with a smile and in a positive way, the last 2 years our transportation costs have gone up for really good reasons. And I'm not really sure if that's gone up enough. I'm hoping it hasn't gone up enough, which means our teams are participating and competing at higher levels beyond the regular season. We have teams that are going to not only quarterfinals, they're going to semifinals, they're going to championships, they're going to state championships, and in the end, all of that adds up. So that increase is a positive increase. Our BOCES costs, are, again, that's another number that remains for the most part consistent. The officials costs have gone up over the last couple of years. I think we used to be around 70 to 75,000. It's now 90,000. That's just the cost of what it is for officials. It's gone up. Scheduling based on school size. BOCES does charge you a fee to do scheduling for your sports, and a lot of you are now familiar with our school today. The schedules that are inputted into there are done by BOCES providers, and that cost is around $15,000. And then Section 1 dues. There is a fee to participate in Section 1 as a varsity team. So each team that you have, that fee gets paid to Section 1. So that's about $11,100 approximately. So in the end, that puts us at our $106,000. I did want to just refer to our technology platforms, Huddle. Our technology department does help support funding those. Huddle is a filming platform that we use to film our teams, to track statistics, to share film. It's something that we've had for a few years. Team Builder is another technology platform that we use, and our technology department is supporting us there as well. Not only does it help our athletes, but it helps the entire student body because they are using it during physical education classes now. We first implemented it for our sports teams, and now in our Fit for Life classes, they use this application. Students can track it on their phones. It's just a great tool to have to help you with tracking your physical fitness. And the last slide is capital improvements. As I mentioned before about the clay piece, which fell under supplies, our softball infield, if you take a walk out there, our softball infield, I always tell our, our fields guys, I want the infield to look like Yankee Stadium. Is it going to look like Yankee Stadium? No. But we did, scraped the entire field. We scraped it. Basically, that means we took the entire layer off last year. We added all brand new clay. And the clay we got is the good clay. This year, as the next step, we added all conditioner to the infield. So if you look at a professional field and you walk around the clay, you'll see almost like, it looks like kitty litter that's spread out all across the infield. That's a conditioner for the clay. So if you do get some sort of precipitation, it helps absorb it, but it also helps keep the clay moist so that when you're dragging it, it helps you to maintain the field and keep it maintained throughout the course of the season. We were able to add a new sound system on our main turf. Some of you have heard it. If you live in town, you may hear it during a game. We try to monitor it as best as we can. And you know, I want to thank some of our youth organizations, local community members who helped contribute to this. This was not solely out of the athletic budget. We did get a lot of contributions for this. Our student activities and plus some of our youth organizations helped make this happen. Our high school gym, we purchased a new sound system that we'll use next year. We do have it. We just did not receive it until the season was close to an end. So next year we'll have access to that as well. Branding, and we've referred to our branding, you know, going back for a while, but that's something that comes out of our supplies budgets as well. And you'll see on our tennis courts, should be up there, I'm hoping by tomorrow for our first home match. We have an 8-foot by 60-foot banner. And those are just things that help make the facilities look a little more appealing and spirited, which I think is very important. We've done the same at Parkway Field, and we've also done the same for our college signings. So if you've seen us on Twitter and you've followed us, and I know that Deborah West has shared on some of our weekly announcements. You know, we try to make our, and you can sort of see in the picture a little bit the background, our college signings more professional. We want it to be a positive experience for our athletes and our families and our coaches. So we set it up like a press conference. You can see the step and repeat background. There's a great design on the table that we have there, which is a little bit hidden. But when we do it, we want to do it the right way. And all that takes time, takes money, but that I would consider a part of our capital improvements. The state championship sign, which you can see right in the front of the turf. We have 4 state champs out there right now, hoping to get a couple more in the near future. This is another item that we received a lot of support in from our boosters who are contributing to that sign. Again, the student activities accounts and partially from the athletics budget as well. So we're taking from different areas to make things work, but that's a good thing. Upgraded high school trophy cases and entryway. If you come into the high school entryway, you'll see the step and repeat backgrounds in our trophy cases. Little by little, we will get the plaques up there. We're waiting on a couple more to come back from Crown Trophy, and once we have all those, we can kind of figure out where things are going to go. But again, adding more spirit, updating it rather than just a corkboard back there. We want to make it more appealing to our athletes and people who come visit our schools.
That's like your transportation issue. You've got too many trophies now.
Well, we were talking about
more
where
and
the
more.
next cases were going to go. Yes, I agree with that.
It's a good problem to have.
A very good problem to have. And we also, in our entryway, I think you might have seen it in one of the other pictures, we have some raised 3D lettering that we put in the entryway. Just when people enter into our building, we want them to kind of say, wow, this is a nice place to be. We're going to continue to move into the other main hallway right outside of the gym, those main gym doors this summer. So we have some more branding that's going to go up there. It's all ready to go. It's just a matter of us being able to do some painting when no one's in the building, and add some things up there that would take time without a lot of traffic coming through. Additional batting cage at Parkway. We solidified the funds from our dad's club, and we've worked with the town and also from the athletic department. This will be a combined effort. We're going to be adding another batting cage at Parkway Field. This will help not just the high school programs, but our youth organizations as well. Right now, there's currently one cage. We're going to put one near Parkway 4, they call it, on the backfield, so that a lot more people will have access, which we've been down there many times, worked with the town, and it's something that everyone's looking forward to. Hoping July 1, we're going to start to get the ball rolling on that. And finally, new high school gym basketball hoops. So this was part of an internal safety audit. Our hoops are old, but they still work. But now, you'll see when you go into other gyms, when you start making upgrades, hoops are designed a little bit differently. They call them breakaway rims. So if someone did go up for a dunk, or you have someone who's goofing off and hanging on the rims break away without the backboard shattering. We will implement safety straps on all of our hoops, and we will be changing the backboards and the rims hopefully this summer. So that'll be a huge upgrade for us, and again, it'll be a lot safer in the gym for us as well.
Will it just be on the two main hoops?
So it's going to be all of them.
Because there's all the
yeah,
ones on
we're
the
working
side,
towards
too.
6 basketball hoops. So not just the main, we're going to do all 6. And again, I mentioned the safety straps and certain things there now to be sort of in compliance is very important. So we're very excited about that. All right.
Thank you for doing the softball infield. We actually had some softball players come in a couple years ago and ask about doing that because of all the years of burning the pallets there for the bonfire, for the pep rally. There were so many nails in that dirt that they were getting cut. And no matter how many times, Mr. Bauerlein would go in there with a high-powered magnet and try and get all the ones that had risen to the top. There were always more, and they were posing a safety hazard to our students who were, trying to slide. And so it's great that that's finally cleaned up.
It still does happen. I'm not going to say that didn't happen this year, but we had extra clay from last year, knowing that would be a concern. So that area where the bonfires held, we skinned that area as well, took the mound out, added fresh foundation clay, and then put the other clay on top. So
I'm sure there might be a couple here and there but hopefully not in the
you're
numbers
gonna find that,
we were,
absolutely.
that we were seeing. So
And I did have a coach at the scrimmage on last Friday approached me from the other team. He said, "This is actually the nicest infield I think I've ever seen." So it definitely
Proud
it worked. So.
When are you
Nice,
going to
thank
reopen the apparel store?
We're hoping by the end of this week. We should have a link. They mentioned the link will be live hopefully by tomorrow, Wednesday. If not tomorrow, by the end of the week. So we'll probably post it on Monday. Hopefully that's the plan.
That looks great with all the new branding stuff on all the new apparel. Looks good.
Yeah. Thank
So
you,
it'll
yeah.
be, people can get to it on the Pleasantville website if they go to athletics?
It usually goes out through Twitter, and each of the buildings sends it out through their weekly
okay.
newsletter. We probably could post it on the website. I just think it gets more, it gets noticed more when we do it the other ways, but that's a good idea, actually. I didn't think of doing that, so I may try that. Yep.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Iorio. And I'll start off the rest of the budget, and it's the non-instructional budget. This part of the budget not only covers over 40% of our budget, total budget, but also you will hear when we present it, a touch on all the 6 strategic plan strategies. So I'll go over the topics that will be covered. Some of the terminology may sound strange to you, for example, operations and maintenance, general support, undistributed. What we do is that in New York State, we follow the New York State Uniform System of Account for school districts. So these are the terminologies that all the school districts use. So, we just need to get familiar with that. And I invite Mr. Chamberlain to start off the operations and maintenance.
Thank you, Mr. Chow. Good evening, everybody. I'm happy to be here tonight to talk about my 2023-2024 budget. And we'll start with the overview of all my line items. And I just want to point out a couple of the big changes. As Dr. DeSalle already mentioned, our utility costs have gone up drastically, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later in my report. A couple areas we were able to reduce was our maintenance contracts. And that reduction there is because in this year's budget, we had our building condition survey, which we're required to do every 5 years. So we won't be needing to put that in there for next year. Oh, and also maintenance repairs is down too. And that's due to my staff being able to do a lot of our own repair and maintenance in-house. So we have some significant cost savings there. Equipment line is going to be the replacement of a 2007 Chevy pickup truck. If you remember, this is actually in this current year's budget, but we're not going to be doing it because I'm using those funds to offset our increased utility costs. We'll also, depending upon the cost of the maintenance truck, I'll be adding some other small operation and maintenance equipment. And we'll go to, I keep a Excel spreadsheet of all of our equipment and replacement costs and replacement due dates. So we'll go to that to pick out what we need to prioritize to replace.
I don't know if 16 years is long enough to keep that truck. Maybe you could eke out a couple more years, Mr. Chamberlain.
You know, our trucks don't get a lot of miles on them, but just the wear and tear and really the salt over the winters is what kills them. But 2007, it's about time.
That's pretty good, keeping it that long.
Okay, let's talk about utilities.
Do we have to?
Huge increases. Just to look at the most recent billing cycle year over year, natural gas has gone from about $1 a therm to $1.90 a therm. That's actually come down a little bit, but it'll probably hold steady through next season. Electricity has gone from 13 cents a kilowatt to 22 cents a kilowatt. And something I want to just mention that I'm really proud of, and I'm proud of my staff. I met with key members of my facilities staff early in the school year because I knew we were going to be in trouble with the utility costs. And I asked them all to be very diligent about our heating usage and our lighting usage and anything electrical. And just a couple of numbers year over year for this billing cycle. Last year, kilowatt hour usage, 203,000. This year, 175,000.
Wow.
Okay, and the natural gas therm uses, and I know a lot of this is because we had a mild winter, but a lot of it is due to our guys lowering our set points. We went from 29,000 therms to 18,000 therms. So
That's
really
fantastic.
some significant savings.
Thank you for being proactive
Yeah.
and asking them to keep an eye on things and tighten things up.
Well, you know, they're part of the part of the whole team, and you know, the money, I explained, the money's got to come from somewhere, right? So if we don't have enough money for utilities and I have to take it out of supplies or take it out of something else, right?
Right.
So
Good.
they're happy to
That's
to
great.
join in and do what they can.
Steve is the least popular person at district office. I'm just saying, he freezes us out and nobody likes him. Proceed, thank you.
We made it. We're still here.
You can always wear an extra sweater in the office.
We wear a lot of layers.
You can always wear an extra
It might
layer.
look like spring to you, but in my office, it's winter, so.
Dr. DeSalle actually has shawl and blankets.
We have to spread the pain equally. Just a list of our maintenance contracts and other contractual. I don't have to run through them. You can see them up there. They're sort of the same every year. Supplies, it's essentially all the supplies we use for custodial and maintenance for our 7 buildings, which are 350,000 square feet of indoor space, and we have 30 acres of grounds. And also want to mention that we have 2,000 people in these buildings every day, so we go through a lot of supplies. Talk briefly about our upcoming capital projects. We'll start with the ones that'll be funded out of this current year budget. We're going to be doing the continuation of the Bedford Road School window treatment replacement. If you remember, we started that last year, and we're going to do a number of classrooms replacing the window treatments. So the window treatments are 20 years old at this point. And also continuation of the removal of the chalkboards over there and installing whiteboards. There are 3 classrooms at Bedford Road School that could use some additional lighting. We'll be doing that this summer. Replacement of 2 exterior benches at the middle school. Our high school front columns, not the ones that we replaced about 10 years ago, but the ones that are right up against the building. They are original wood from 1929. If you've noticed, the bases of them are significantly rotted, so we'll be replacing all that wood this summer and repainting them.
Okay. Are those structural
Where-
or just,
Where are they?
I'm sorry?
are those structural or are they just
No, they're not
for-
structural. They're just
just for-
decorative.
And where are they?
They're right up in front of the high school, so we have.
But they're not the big pillars,
No,
because
they're
that's
right-
like we
they're
just
behind
did
them
those.
On the corner of the building.
I'm gonna have to look. It's like you see something, but you
Yeah.
don't see something. Because I
You
knew
look
I just did the
underneath.
pillars, and I've been meaning,
Yeah.
so I'm going, okay.
Yeah. And then, as Mr. Iorio went over, we're going to be doing the replacement of the 6 backboards. I made a mistake here. I misunderstood. It's going to be just in the high school, not in the 3, not 2 and 3 gyms. It's going to be 6 in the high school gym. Is that correct? Okay. Thank you. Installation of our video phone access system at the 3 school entrances, and completion of Department of Health recommendations for our 3 kitchens. And then 2 projects that we're going to commit to, capital projects for a 23-24 budget, and only 2 at this point because we want to be, at this point in the budget, you want to be a little conservative, especially what happened to us last year with utilities. So the 2 that we're going to commit to now are installation of 2 access card readers at the middle school and some additional security cameras and some security camera replacement at the 3 school buildings.
Steve, can I just elaborate a little bit on some of these in light of the conversation that we were having before on safety? You see on there backboards, Ms. Dyer already covered those. Those came out from like a more informal audit where Steve, John, and I went through all of the buildings and looked at the building requests and really prioritized the health and safety items that were recommended that we look at and that we do. The video phone access piece, we are hoping that the intercoms, I've talked about the visitor protocols, and we had the task force that rewrote those. I don't even remember where it was, but earlier, we've been sitting on that information and waiting for these to come in and get installed. We're hoping that that's going to happen in the next month or 2. The 23-24 budget items came from a different type of audit that we had a tech security company come in that we use to really look at our usage, look at our coverage, look at different things, and really we prioritize those going into next year's budget. So I just feel like in light of everything on this slide, it kind of speaks to the application of what we say we're prioritizing and what we're making sure that we budget for accordingly. This is a very heavy safety, from the technology to backboards to visitor protocols. So there's like a lot loaded in here, I think, messaging about to our community what we value and what we prioritize and what we're making sure gets done. And we're going to talk about it a little bit more in some upcoming slides, so I'll give it back to you, so thank you.
Thank you.
It's understandable to only have 2 for 23-24, since the next slide talks about our HVAC project, which
Correct.
will be significant.
Thank you. So you are correct. Just want to everybody to remember, we have a very large HVAC project happening at the middle school. It's going to start this summer. We've presented this a couple of times, so I just want to bring everybody up to date where we are. Contracts have been awarded. We've already started construction meetings with our architects and contractors. The contractors right now are submitting materials to be reviewed by the architect and approved by the architects and myself. Then they'll start the procurement of all the equipment. The construction will start on 6/26 or sooner. There is some talk that we will start the project sooner after hours because it's a very compressed time schedule. The bulk of the work will be completed this summer. However, there's going to be some equipment that will not be available for this summer, and that will be done next summer, but the bulk of the system will be up and running for the fall.
So you're hoping to get it mostly running?
Correct. The
After
things that
the
are not
summer,
available are going to be some of the larger rooftop units, but all of the smaller units for the classrooms seem like they'll be available.
Great.
So we'll have that up and running, right? But next fall, next winter's heating season will be running a combination of our current system in a few places and our new system before we have it
Till you
completely
get those
switched
other
over.
units.
Correct.
Thanks.
And then just a project I want to speak a little bit about that I've spoken about before, but it was recently completed, so I wanted to bring everybody up to date. And I'm really proud of this project because this is something I knew nothing about. And it was a big project. Just to give you a little history, we had an antiquated lighting system in there. Lights that were we could not buy replacement parts for anymore, and were really they were drawing more electricity than our system could support. And we had a control board that basically wasn't functioning. So for a couple of years, we were renting LED lights to reduce our energy consumption there, to not overwhelm the wiring, and we rented a control board. So not knowing anything about this, I got a hold of a company in Manhattan that was on bid that we could use, and I started working with them, trying to explain to them what we wanted, and they started working on the project. And then John Verchesi got me in touch with a former student and a current resident, Josh Starr, who actually works as a lighting consultant. And he sort of took the bull by the horns and worked with me and the lighting company and designed the entire project. We fitted in a budget with Mr. Chow and put this thing together. And I got to tell you, if anybody went to see the play this year, it's fantastic. And I'm so happy it all came together. And we're drawing a lot less electricity, we're saving money, we're not overwhelming the wiring, and we have some products that'll be very useful for years to come. It's not 100% LED conversion. The main lighting has been. We could do some additional conversion if needed, but right now I think we're good to go.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chamberlain. I just want to give a full disclosure. They both have very nice pictures, and I have none. So this is the end of the pictures presentation. And so now we go to the rest of the topics, and we'll go in order from general support, transportation, and distributed, and all the way to the contingency budget. So first, we'll go over the general support. General support has these categories: Board of Education, Chief School Administrator, Finance, Staff, and Special Items. So the Board of Education has three parts to it. The first part is Board of Education, and the second part is District Clerk, and the third one is District Meetings. District Meeting is really the election. And then the Chief School Administrator, that's the Office of the Superintendent. And the finance is the office of the business office. And under staff, we have legal, HR. Here we have communication part, we have public information. That's all under staff. And special items, we have insurance, judgments / claims, sewer taxes. That's the only taxes that we have to pay. This is the county sewer taxes that the district pays. And refund on real property taxes. And the biggest part is actually the BOCES, admin cost and the capital cost. The BOCES admin cost mainly is for the BOCES retirees benefit. And because that part cannot be distributed to the current programs, and therefore is distributed to all the component districts. And I just want to stress the part that Dr. Desai already mentioned, that here you only see the summary part. If you want to see the detailed line-by-line item for our entire budget on the expenditure side and the revenue side, both budgets are on the district website. You can reference there. And now we go to the transportation. So this line of the transportation is only for public and parochial school transportation. Mr. Iorio already presented his part of the transportation, that's for sports. And Dr. Ballard at the last meeting on March 15th presented her part of the transportation for special education student out of district placement. So here are this is the third part of the transportation contract. And also we have a BOCES line because for our special education transportation, we belong to, we call it MVP consortium. So this is Mount Pleasant, Valhalla, and Pleasantville. We combine and we contract with BOCES. So they provide a transportation coordinator, and this is part of his salary. And that's also located here. So even though the transportation number is scattered at different parts of the budget, when we report to the state at the end of August, we combine all the numbers together, and therefore we can get transportation aid on the transportation expenditure. And this is the largest part. This is the employee benefits. And I think when you look at the large category, this represents about 20% of our total budget. So I'll just give you some very quick rundown. The first item is employee retirement system. We're going to see an increase from 11.7% to 13.2%. And the second line is teachers' retirement system. And you can see that most of our employees, or most of the salary, is in the TRS. And that number is going down from 10.29 to 9.76%. And then Social Security, you will also see an increase because the limit is going up, and therefore we'll be paying more. And workers' comp, we belong to a consortium made up of all the school districts from the Southern Westchester BOCES, so, and therefore we are considered self-insured. And this part is being managed very well. And unemployment, we are really self-managed, so we pay as we go. When we have a claim, we just review and we pay. And then health insurance, this is the largest part. This is the part that Dr. Desai mentioned. And so for the current calendar year, 2023, we'll see an increase of 14.5% for our current employees. For the retirees, the increase is actually even higher. So this is a very large chunk of our total budget increase. And then we have the Medicare refund, so we're required to refund the Medicare payment of the employees who are eligible for Medicare. And union welfare, this is the vision and dental insurance for our employees. And other is just a summary of, sum of all the rest of the benefits part. So overall, here we see an increase of over $1 million. And here's the debt service. We don't segregate out different debts. We have several bonds. And so this budget actually increased the bond that we just borrowed. We closed on March 15th for the $2 million we borrowed for the middle school HVAC. And so that's included in this budget. So interfund transfer. So this is a very interesting terminology, right? What is the interfund transfer? So what this is that there are two parts that you can put in your general fund budget. One is for special aid fund, one is for capital project funds. You put it in your budget. It's going to come out of general fund. But once the budget is approved, these funds will be moved to the other two funds. So the first one is going to be moved to the special aid fund, and the second part will be moved to capital projects fund. So the special aid fund is to support the ESY, the extended school year program. This budget is for the summer 2023. And the rule is that the local district has to pay for 20% and for the approved program and approved individual students. And then the state will fund the rest, the 80%. But the funds has to be moved to the special aid fund, and then when the government give us the other 80%, that will be paid out of the special aid fund also. And then the second part is the capital project fund. So capital project fund is for capital projects. So every year, our tradition is identify some projects. This is a good long-term planning. And because if you can continue to upgrade, upkeep your buildings, they will last longer. So Dr. Desai already talked about, we actually had to use more funds for the middle school HVACs. That's why you see for the current year, for that line, you see the $2.3 million. We did pull money from different sources, but it had to land there before we move it into the capital project fund. So for next year, we're back to the $455,000. So this is the part, this is the interfund transfer for 23-24. We're proposing to have $455,000 for this part of the capital projects. I'll invite Mr. Chamberlain to talk about the projects, and then I'll talk about the funding part.
So I'll talk about the middle school roof restoration for older sections. I'll start in 2016. If you remember, we did a roof replacement of the middle school, and that was for other portions of the roof that were done in the 1980s. It was about 30,000 square foot of roofing. We still have 4 sections of roof there that were done in 2003, so they're 20 years old and coming out of warranty. They total about 18,000 square feet. And they're EPDM roofing, and what we're proposing to do here is actually a roof restoration. We've already determined that by doing a thermal scan on the roof and some roof penetrations, that all of the insulation underneath this roofing material is still viable, so we can reuse that insulation. And the restoration is actually done by roof coating. We did a similar project here at the auditorium roof of the high school about 2 years ago. And with this restoration coating, it gives us an additional 20 years on the roof warranty. So it's really a very cost-effective way to redo a roof. And then regarding the security projects, I guess these are projects that the district administration will determine what exactly they're going to be.
So I'll talk about the funding part. At this point, we haven't, because we are still doing the audit for the safety and we are still reviewing the projects, so we haven't made the final decision as far as what kind of projects that we're going to go forward with. So, but we do have an estimate for the middle school roof restorations. That is going to be costing about $500,000. And then that's the hard cost. And then we still had to have the architect, the soft cost. We will not be doing the borrowing, so there's no funding cost. So what also the reality is that we will not be able to do this part of the roof restoration until next summer, until all the large pieces are up there. So the timing is good. So what we are hoping is that once the safety projects are decided, we can set the rest of the money aside and transfer it into the capital projects for the middle school roof restorations. And that will be from the 23-24 budget. And then, hoping with the 24-25 budget, we will, if we can, we are allowed, if we are able to have another 450, propose the 455. If we propose 455, it will actually be budget neutral because it's from year to year to year, right? So it's not increasing the budget. But the reason I'm not totally comfortable or to make the firm commitment is because of the cost of the health insurance. So, you know, we don't know what is coming for 24, 25. You always have to think ahead. And truly this year we're saved by the foundation aid. Really we're saved by the foundation aid. There's no other way to explain it. And so this is our plan. Okay, so this is what we are hoping. And are there other ways to do it? Because if, let's say we are able to set aside 400,000, let's assume, for the roof, and we still need 150,000. Well, you remember last year we put away 100,000 for the capital reserve. Maybe we can use that if we cannot come up with any funds. I don't know, but right now is the thinking part and the planning part. But at this point, we think these are the two most important projects for the interfund transfer capital projects for the 23-24 school. So, go back. So this really completes the expenditure side of the budget, and now I'll go over the revenue part. You have seen this slide before, and so we have you know, these large category real property taxes, and that is going up $952,000. That is an important number. I'll refer to it several times later. And here, the next line is the state and federal sources. Mainly it's the state source. And the increase is mainly due to foundation aid, because in the governor proposed budget, she is making us whole, plus the CPI number is added into the foundation aid. And appropriation of fund balance, we actually see the reduction coming back to the middle school project because we don't need the funding for 23-24. And tax revenues, that is from the sales tax from the county. And I think a lot of people are buying things, and therefore we are getting more sales tax. So we are very comfortable to present next year's this part as $957,000. And charges for services, this is for tuition. This is unique to Pleasantville school districts, and because we're taking 3 categories of tuition students. One is special education students. One is from Botanical Hills. And also, you recall in the high school, for our board policy, at the high school level, we can take in up to 5 students from other school districts, parentally placed students. And then miscellaneous revenues, these are refund from prior year expenditures, building and ground use, and unclassified. Unclassified means, you know, catch all, whatever is left over is recorded here. And then just to give you the percentage, the big takeaway is really for our school district, real estate property represent about 68% of our budget, the revenue budget. And also the good thing is that the state source is going up. You see it's representing the 20%. And I think for me, that's the 2 big takeaways. And here is presenting the tax cap. This is just for full disclosure. This is our calculation of the tax cap. Two things I want to indicate. One is that at about the midpoint, you will see that the CPI, this is allowable growth factor, lesser of 2% of CPI. Just a reminder, CPI for last year was actually 8%. We're only allowed to use 2%.
Yeah.
And also, this is coming back to earlier, I was talking about the tax levy increase. Our tax levy increase is $952,337. If you look at the very bottom line, our tax cap is $956,363. So we're leaving about $4,000 on the table. So estimated tax rates for 23-24. This is the most important word here is the estimated, because I'm using the number from the tax assessor as of March 15th, and we really do not have the final assessment until at the end of June. So this is estimate, this is estimate, this is estimated number. And the only reason we had to present it this way is because we are sitting in two towns, even though we just have one piece of property in Newcastle, but this is the calculations. If you look at the percentage at midpoint, 99.87% is in the town of Mount Pleasant. So for Newcastle is 0.13%. So what I take away from this slide is that the good news for our school district and for our taxpayers is that as of March 15th, the assessed taxable valuation actually went up from $25,224,076 to $25,474,868. So it actually increased close to 1%. 1% really is a very large amount. And this could be because of the developments, but also could be people's renovation. You know, when you add a room, you add something, your assessed value is going to go up. So overall, if you look at our school district, the assessed value has gone up 1%. That is huge. And that has a direct impact on the bottom line. You see, the estimated tax rate increase is 1.44. Usually that number is closer to the tax levy increase. And the tax levy increase is 2.43%. So even though this is estimated, and I can guarantee you when we do the tax warrant, that is not going to be the number, but this is good news. Another good news for the taxpayers here has no impact on the school district. It's actually, if you look at the equalization rate. So the equalization rate for Mount Pleasant is going down from 1.31 to 1.21%. That's a very large decrease. And a decreasing equalization rate means the market value is going up. So the market value for the houses, I'm not talking about every houses, it's overall, it has gone up. So that's the good news for the taxpayers. It has no impact on the school district. And so here is the property tax report cards. You know, some of the tables, things I'm presenting, they are dry, but they are required. So this is required that we had to prepare, we had to present, and we had to report to the state the day after the budget adoption. So on April 19th, I'll be reporting this to the state. And in this report, you will see the budget, you will see the tax cap, you will see the enrollment, and you see the CPI, and you will see the fund balance, current fund balance, and also projected year-end fund balance. And this is a continuation of the property tax report card. So now we go to the budget notice. Again, this is required. And not only this is required, but this is also required that we must send this to all the taxpayers, all the residents. So budget notice will be included in our budget newsletter when we mail it out. And also, another requirement of the budget notice is that the budget notice must be ratified by the school board. So the district clerk will have this at the next board meeting when we ask the school district, ask the board to adopt the budget. That's the time that we need to ratify the budget notice. And in the budget notice, it shows the budget, it shows the contingency budget, it shows the three-part budget. Three-part budget is also required by the state when we present the budget. Not only you had to show the entire budget, but you also had to separate them out into three parts, meaning the administrative budget, the program budget, and the capital budget. And then we need to show the contingency budget that meets the administrator threshold. There's a formula. When we put the contingency budget together, we actually have the test. And the contingency budget cannot exceed, in percentage-wise, exceed the administrative costs cannot exceed the proposed budget. And also here, we talked about very, very fine lines up on the top, that if we go to the contingency budget, what are our plans? What do we plan to cut? And then also at the midpoint, you will see they are blank. I can tell you last year we had 2 items because we had 2 propositions. But for 23-24 budget, we do not have additional propositions. We just have a budget. Okay, so now we go to the contingency budget. What is a contingency budget? So there are 3 main parts. The first one is when voters reject a proposed budget. Of course, you can go through 2 times. We'll go over that part. And the second part is the contingency budget may not include a levy higher than the prior year's levy. So basically, it's a 0% tax levy growth. I'll show you, we need to go back to the $952,000 again. And then the third one is that information must be included in the budget notice, which we did. So now, contingency budget. So when do you go to the contingency budget? So we have a budget vote on May 16, 2023. And if the budget is approved, then we go to the left side, far left. So approved, and the budget is adopted. However, if the budget goes down, we go to the right. The first red, that means if it is disapproved, is rejected. At that point, you can go to the middle point, you know, that red, the green one. The board actually can convene a meeting and decide to go directly to the contingency budget at that point. Or go to the far right, the board can propose another budget. And another budget can be exactly the same as the first proposed budget, or you can shave off some numbers and be a lower budget, or, which I've never heard a school district does, but you can add to it too. You can come up with another budget. So as long as you adopt the budget, we'll put it on the ballot. If it was rejected the first time, always on the 3rd Tuesday in June. And of course, that budget can be accepted, then we have a budget. Otherwise, we must go to the contingency budget. Now, I just want to highlight that $952,000. The reason is because you remember the second bullet, it says that the contingency budget may not include a levy higher than the prior year levy. So what that means is that if the 23-24 budget is rejected, we're not talking about the bottom line, but we're talking about the tax levy. The tax levy, we can only be at $39,242,611 or less. Just cannot exceed the 22-23 levy. So that's the key number. Mm-hmm. So here.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
So on a few slides ago, the one that had the budget notice on it,
Mm-hmm.
the contingency budget is actually higher than the adopted budget for the previous year. How do you figure out how much you can, so you can raise the budget,
But
but
the levy.
not the tax levy?
Not the tax levy.
So how do you come up with how much you can, that 1.14%?
Revenue.
So I'll just tell you, can I come over here to show you?
Sure.
So basically, this is the current year budget.
Yeah,
This is the proposed budget. And how did we get here? Is that you use this number minus 950,
952, 337,
952,337,
337.
it becomes this number.
got it.
And then you use this number minus this number, this is the increase,
Okay,
okay?
thank you.
Okay, it's really hinging on not the bottom number, but the tax levy number.
Okay,
Just the tax levy has created a shape of $952,337.
okay. Thank you.
So your other revenue sources can stay the same.
Right.
That revenue source
That
has
one
to.
has to
That
be.
one. So there can be an increase, but not in the,
Tax
Not
levy.
the levy.
exactly.
Tax levy, the key is really the tax levy. Just the tax levy cannot go up.
Okay.
And so how do we reduce 952,000? So there are only two ways. So it's one is reduce expenditures, two is use fund balance, and you can do a combination. And under the reduce of expenditures, I just want to stress, for a school district like ours, and like most school districts, 50% is personnel. So if we had to go to contingency budget, it'll probably be personnel. But that is probably the most painful part. But so, you know, I hope we don't have to go there, but this is what a contingency budget will look like. I'll turn this over to Dr. Desai.
Thank you, Mr. Chow.
Thank you very much.
No picture.
No picture.
But you told it like a story, so.
So as I started, this is our last presentation before our April 18th budget adoption. After that, we move on to the budget public hearing, and then we end on May 16th with our annual budget vote and the school board election. We are hosting we are co-sponsoring an event on Thursday, April 13th at 7:30 with our parent groups here in the high school library to talk about the budget and the budget process, and the timing of the budget and when it's appropriate, and when we can make some changes within the budget planning process. I just think it's important, like one of the themes from tonight when we heard from Mr. Iorio and Mr. Chamberlain is that a lot of their items are from like two sources. There's really like a systematic process of who's up for a new field, who's up for new uniforms, which piece of equipment do we need to replace, right? Like having a 2007 vehicle is probably going to cost us more in maintenance than it would cost at this point. So we have like plans, we have systems, they have procedures in place, but then we're obviously leaving room in our budget to meet needs that we might perceive at this point and or that may come up along the way. So I just think that that was a common piece and something that I think is important for the community to know and understand, that there is a budget, there is a plan. We think we know where we're spending a lot of these monies, but then things change. As you heard, you know, Mr. Chamberlain's example was perfect about we didn't anticipate these kinds of increases and nearly doubling costs for electricity and for fuel and for oil. So we have to make changes along the way to make sure that, that we're paying our bills, that we're addressing needs that come up. So it's really a delicate balancing act with planning for what is foreseeable in the future, and then having the ability to make adjustments along the way depending upon what the emerging needs are. So we're happy to talk about that in our budget forum with parents, and we are also always willing and open to hear comments from the community. You can contact the Board of Education through the district clerk, you can contact myself, or you can contact Mr. Chow, our Assistant Superintendent for Business, who did a lovely job tonight. So if there are any questions?
It's very thorough.
Very,
Thank you very much.
did it